You're listening to Coming Out Stories on the Lesbian Talk Show.
Hi, I'm Tara Scott, and this is my coming out story. When I was growing up, I knew that homosexuality was bad before I knew what it was. I grew up in a very religious home. My parents were Catholic, and they became evangelical Christians when I was a toddler. Well, we stayed in the Catholic Church until I was around 10 or 11. And at that point, we joined a local Baptist church and became deeply involved there. And when I say deeply, I mean we went to Sunday school, Sunday morning services, Sunday evening services. They went to the Wednesday night Bible study group while I was in the girls group. My brothers were in the boys group. Later on, when I was older, I was leading Bible studies. I was doing Sunday school for the little kids. I was on the worship team, helping the nursery. My dad became a deacon. My mom was on the kitchen committee. And anytime the church had anything to say about homosexuality, it was that it was bad, that the Bible forbade sex between men or between women. Marriage equality wasn't even a thing then, and the church made sure, though, that we knew that the only real marriage could ever be between a man and a woman, and that the good gay people were the ones who weren't practicing, whether that meant that, they were praying the gay away, or that they just weren't having sex, that they were making a choice, because you could be gay, you just can't have sex, because the only real sex is between two people who are married, and the only people who can get married is that man and a woman. And bisexuality didn't come up at all, because why would it? The choice was clear. If you're bisexual, just make sure you marry someone of the opposite gender. All the while, as I'm growing up, I'd watch a movie like The Last of the Mohicans, and I'd have this funny feeling in my stomach when I saw Madeline Stowe, and I had no idea why. Or I'd spend a lot of time staring at my grade 8 teacher, and I didn't know why about that either. Because at the same time, I also had a crush on a boy in my class. I knew what that was. So that kind of thing happened again and again over the years, and if you fast forward a bunch of years, I married a man. He's my husband, Neil. If you've heard me on my podcast, Let's Do Books, or on the show Ask a Bisexual, you've probably heard me talk about Neil before. He's amazing. I was attracted to him, and I loved him, and I still do, even more now. But all the while, even in the early years of our marriage, I didn't understand the feelings I'd get when I'd see some women. I just chalked it up to girl crushes, because that was totally a thing for straight women. Or so, people would say. But when I was pregnant with our oldest daughter, which was about 7 years ago now, I was reading a lot of romance novels. I was super checked out at work. I was, very pregnant, very uncomfortable. Things were kind of going bad at that company. And romance was a great escape. It's a wonderful, we all know romance novels can be such amazing escapism. And I also was a big fan of the website Jezebel. And so one day they reprinted a list off of Autostraddle, and it was the list of 10 lesbian romances on my Kindle right now. And I couldn't believe it. And I turned to the person sitting next to me and I said, "Did you know lesbian romance is a thing?" And she looked at me like, I had two heads. And I said, "Books. Did you know that the books are a thing?" And I looked at the list and I grabbed the first one that really kind of spoke to me, and it was And Playing the Role of Herself by K.E. Lane. And it was amazing. And then I grabbed another book off the list, which was the first book of the Honor series by Radcliffe. And that was amazing. And I just was looking for more and more, and I was devouring these books, and I didn't feel like reading straight romances anymore. But I still thought I was straight. But it's no big deal, right? I just like these books. Until one day, Neil sat me down and he said, "Look, I've noticed you're reading a lot of lesbian romances. Do you think you might be bisexual? Because if you are, it's okay, and you're not going to go to hell." I needed that so badly, and I had no idea that I needed it. And it was actually really scary at first, because it wasn't something I'd ever really seriously considered. And of course, the only answer was yes. Of course I was bisexual. And that led me to really kind of reevaluate my whole life up to that point. And it let me see things through a different lens. Like I can understand now, looking back, what that feeling was in my stomach. And while it opened things up and it was huge, I didn't actually know very many queer people. Because, of course, in the church, I didn't meet many, and if any of them ended up being queer, I don't know. We didn't stay in touch, and my family certainly wasn't friends with any, but Of the ones that I did know, the ones that I went to university with, I reached out to these women. And that was kind of the start of being able to come out and to share who I was. And I, slowly but surely started to come out to some of the people around me. I came out to my brothers and some of my friends. And even before that, though, I tweeted at Sheena, who, we joke at the Lesbian Review that she's the queen of all things, but I think it's because she's done this amazing thing, which is built a community. And I know that that's something that was so important to me, because that one act of reaching out to Sheena and saying, hey, you're a book reviewer. You should review this great book that I read. And her saying, why don't you review it yourself? Send me a review. That ended up being life-changing, because I joined at the Lesbian Review and more reviewers came on, and we started a Facebook group, and I got to know authors and other readers. And while I didn't have a big community in my life in person, I was able to join this massive community of queer women who are also readers, which, again, oh my goodness, I've always been a reader all my life, so being able to have those friends made it so much better and so much easier. And so now, I'm out at work, and that's great because it's not a big deal, and it's a very safe place to be out. So I'm very grateful for that. And this summer, I finally had a conversation with my parents. I didn't think it was necessary. I thought they knew, because it was pretty obvious from my Facebook, the things I was posting, the things that were being posted about me. But apparently it was. And, I'm pleasantly surprised by how well it went. They didn't totally understand, but they tried. They're still trying. And I love them, and I appreciate that they're trying, because they're still very much people of their faith. And the question of practicing came up. And it's something I've been thinking about ever since. And, I want to make a joke that I'm very good at being bi at this point, because I've had so much practice these last several years. But that's just really my tendency to be a smartass and for, emotional self-preservation to kick in. Because, honestly, I'm bisexual all the time. It's not something I can turn on and off. And when I look back, I can see that I've been bisexual the whole time. And I'm a little sad when I look back at that girl who couldn't acknowledge or understand. It wasn't an option for her. But I don't regret anything. Neil's an amazing husband and a true partner who's more supportive of me than everyone else in my life combined. He never wants me to be any more or less than exactly who I am. And I'm not making my coming out story about him, but I really want to emphasize his role in it, because he made it safe for me to acknowledge who I am and to accept myself and to live as authentically as I possibly can, so that I can model that for our daughters as well. And so while that girl growing up may not have been able to be her whole self, I am so glad that I'm able to as a woman, and that I can do it with an amazing partner, a fabulous support system, and this community all around me. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or want to talk about your story, you can email me at tara@thelesbianreview.com.
Find this and other excellent podcasts on The Lesbian Talk Show. You can search for The Lesbian Talk Show on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, and anywhere you get your podcasts. If you enjoy this, consider becoming a patron. Patrons get exclusive podcasts, behind-the-scenes information, and help us grow our community. Find more information at patreon.com/thelesbiantalkshow.